my channel. I'm Coaching Center. Today I'm going to explain your 9th standard history, first chapter, the French Revolution, and this is Punjab medium. So let's come to the chapter, the French Revolution. So the French Revolution is regarded as a very remarkable event in the history of the whole world, and they are stemming the Bastille prison on 14 July 1789 and mark it as the beginning of French Revolution. So the storming of Bastille prisoners on 14 January 1789 was marked as beginning of beginning of French Revolution. Next, the causes of French Revolution: inequality in French society is caused. So French society was divided into three estates. The first estate consists of the clergy. It consists of clergy, Roman Catholic clergy, and the second estate consists of nobles, and the third estate consists of common people, most of whom were peasants. Next, while peasants comprised about 90% of the French population, only few owned land, and 60% of the land was owned by the members of the first two estates. So first two estates owned 60% of land, and 40% of the land owned by peasants. And one of the many reasons why the revolution broke out was because only the member of third estate was paying the taxes to the state, and the member of first and second estate were not paying the taxes for the king. So by this reason the revolution broke out. Next, the nobility and the clergy enjoyed many privileges in French society. So they both enjoyed first and second estate enjoyed very much in the society. And also the later was completed to provide services by noblemen by working in his fields and house. They also had to serve in the army, and the church also collected religious tax from the people that are known as the titres, and the member of the third estate had to pay direct tax to the state known as taille, and indirect tax were imposed on tobacco, salt, and many other everyday item. Thus, the third estate was thing with financial difficulties. They were having more financial difficulties than first and second estate. So rise of middle class. So there was a rise and emergence of many social groups in France in 18th century. And they were traders, businessmen, lawyers, teachers. And the traders and businessmen had acquired wealth through overseas trade. Because of trade, they got many rich. They became wealthy they are, and the administration officials like lawyer, teacher were educated and believed that no group should be given the more privilege, more pride, more authority. They should be not given, and they believed that members of first two estates should be also pay the taxes. They believed. Then the middle class in France was inspired by the writing of some social thinkers and philosophers. So John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau were two such thinkers who rejected the idea of the king idea. They rejected, and Rousseau propounded that the government should be based on social contract drawn between the people and the government. It should be between the people, all people and the government, not some people. And these ideas philosophers were discussed everywhere in coffee shops, in saloons, and they spread among the common people. And inspired by these ideas, people began to oppose the privilege enjoyed by the first and second estate. People started to revolt against them. Next, the educated youth in France were inspired by the rights of liberty and equality, which were ensured by American revolutions. These were ensured by American Revolution. When the people learned that the king was planning to further increase the tax, they rose in revolt. So they started revolt when the king thought to put more tax. So war had drained the French treasury, and the state was under heavy debt and had to pay interest to the creditors. There was a very much loss for the king. He was in a very much loan, and to improve the financial state of the state, the king decided to increase the tax levied on people. So he decided to increase the tax on the people. So when the king called the meeting of assembly of the estates generally to pass proposal of new taxes, the member of third estate walked out from the meeting demanding that every person in the assembly should have to vote contrary to the existing practice of one state having one vote only. And the member of the third estate assembled in the indoor tennis court in 20 June 1789 determined the draft of constitution which would limit the powers of the king, and during this time the prices of bread rose in France and bakers began to hoard supply, and agitated by the unbelievable people including commoners stormed into shops, and when the king ordered his troops to move into Paris, and agitated crowd stormed into the prison of Bastille and liberated its prisoners. So they take out the prisoners. As the number of revolts began to grow, the French monarchs recognized the French assembly and its power could not be checked by the constitution. By constitution, its power could not be checked. Next, France becomes a constitutional monarchy. So the National Assembly consists of the members of three estates also drafted the constitution which limited the power of the king, and the executive legislative duties were assigned to the different institution, and National Assembly had the power to frame the laws the National Assembly was given, and the members of National Assembly were elected by the body of electors, and also this body of electors were elected by the citizens who paid the tax to the government, who were termed active citizens. Other men and all women had no voting rights, only they had. And the Constitution of France guaranteed the right of life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before the law. These are the rights they given. And abolition of monarchy in France. So because the power of King Louis 51, Louis 15 were 15 were reduced. Louis 16 were reduced. He asked for help from the Persian and American kings. Then, however, the revolution in France formed a large army and declared a war against Persia and Australia, and a Jacobin club in France was formed by the revolutionary forces of the country, and it includes small shopkeepers, watchmakers, printers, daily wage earners, servants, and all the people. And in 1792, when the supply of bread reduced, the Jacobs, along with people, stormed the traded places and imprisoned the royal family of France. They imprisoned the royal family of the France, and this developed led to the change in the constitution, and elections were held, and everyone more than 21 years of age was given the right to vote. More than 21 years more age 21 years more than age people were given right to vote, and monarchs were abolished, and France became a republic country, and King Louis XVI was executed publicly on 21 January 1793, and on the charges of treason. His Queen Mary Antonia was also executed later. So they were killed them. After that they killed them. Okay, this was the first topic. So I will explain the other topics of French Revolution in my next video. So till here you will understand, I think so, about first, second, and how much problems were faced by third estate. They were putting high tax, the King Louis 16. So okay friends, I will see my next video explaining the other topics of French Revolution chapter. Till then, take care, like the video, comment on my video, subscribe my channel and coaching center for more video. Okay friends, bye, see you, take care. I will see my next video explaining the other topic of next chapter. Till then, take care, have a nice day, bye my dear friends.